This morning, John, I'm doing a lot of football talk, man. I am all over. We're doing two-a-days on quarterbacks, all right? In the 6 a.m. hour, I'm doing today I did NFC East quarterbacks, and in the 8 o'clock hour, I did AFC East quarterbacks. And I got into this whole, I was ranking the quarterbacks, and boy, oh boy, the AFC East quarterback race is pathetic.
Well, number one's pretty good.
The drop-off from 1 to 2 has to be the biggest drop-off in NFL history. I mean, from Brady to the next guy, and I don't even know who the next guy is. I think it might be Darnold. You could say the second most accomplished guy is Fitzpatrick, right?
Yeah, and think about Ryan Fitzpatrick's history and the fact that he's now been everywhere in that division as somebody tries to catch up to the Patriots. But we talk about it all the time. It's amazing the 2-decade span they have and have had. And a lot of it, at least some of it, is due to the weakness of that division. And it's been weak for a consistent period of time. So you ask yourself, is it the chicken or the egg? Are the Patriots really, really that good? Or is the rest of the division that bad? It's a little bit of both, to be honest. And it has been.
Yeah, well, I guess it's easily Brady. Right now, if you're going talent, I guess it's Darnold and then either Josh Allen or Josh Rosen. I don't know. Which of those two guys you like better?
Yeah, I mean, I like Josh Rosen coming out better. We already know what happened to him, and everything went bad in 1 year in Arizona. So you have 3 young quarterbacks. I mean, essentially, and it comes down to who develops the best. I thought Sam Darnold was the best of that group, so I think he's got the leg up. But they all have talent. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think all 3 organizations kind of feel like they finally have the answer, and we'll see if any of them are right. I think the closest one, though, is the Jets. I think Sam Darnold's got a chance to be a really good quarterback.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's a lot of pressure on him that the Jets are now a playoff, or people think they should be a playoff team, and whether or not he's, going to get them there. I mean, he still doesn't have great weapons at wideout. He has a good running back, but not that great group of wideouts.
Well, I don't think people expect the Jets to be a playoff team. I think they expect them to be much improved. I've talked about them in the past. I think they have more talent than people realize. I think the best part for them is the fact that they're in the division. The Patriots are clear-cut above the rest. And generally, if you're the second best team in any division, you're going to be in the wild card race, at least for that second spot. So I think that's the feeling and the ceiling for the Jets coming into this season. But they also think they realize they just changed GMs, obviously with Joe Douglas going up there. So they know they're in a transition mode. They know there's work to do. I don't think anybody looks at that team and says they should be in the playoff hunt, but I think the hope is if everything goes correctly, that maybe they can be in it.
Yeah, John, what happens in the Miami battle? Do they go Fitzpatrick or does Rosen win that job?
Well, you would hope Rosen would win it. We know Ryan Fitzpatrick. I always make the joke that my favorite bridges are Golden Gate, Brooklyn, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is the ultimate quarterback. He's a backup quarterback. He's a very good backup quarterback. You saw last year he gets hot at certain times, anytime he's playing, and he's a guy who can throw it all over the place, but the consistency is not going to be there. And the more he plays, the more he's going to get exposed. Ryan Fitzpatrick is, especially at his age, and he's the ultimate journeyman. So you want the young kid to win it, but you also want him to earn it. You just don't want to give it to him. And the Dolphins are another team in transition, away from Adam Gase into Brian Flores, trying to copy the Patriots mold, as everybody tries to do at some point. And we'll see what works out for them.
Yeah, I think that one will be interesting to watch to see if they want to go safe. Because a lot of people anticipated that Miami was kind of not doing their best to try to win and that they want to be in the quarterback field for next year. But then they got Rosen, and they got a guy like Fitzpatrick who typically is going to get you to 7-8 wins.
Yeah, and remember also they got Rosen for terrific value if you think about what he was as a top 10 pick. And it's not like the Cardinals were the only team looking at him as a potential pick that high. So that's significant talent they got for pennies on the dollar. So I think from that standpoint, it was a great trade for him. And you don't have a lot invested. Remember, we always talk about organizations, if you take a quarterback in the top 10 that highly, you're sort of married to him for at least that rookie contract. So if you miss, it can set you back years and years and years. The Dolphins were able to get a top 10 talent because of a unique circumstance with the Cardinals, as I said, for pennies on the dollar. And They don't have that albatross, so to speak, hanging with them. If he doesn't work and if he doesn't play well or if he doesn't compete well, they could move on again and just go in a different direction, especially if they have a bad season. They could go get another quarterback.
Josh Allen was the quarterback the Bills got in the draft a couple of years ago. He's an interesting guy. I mean, he has does a lot with his legs. 8 touchdowns, like 600 yards or something like that last year. But obviously a very erratic thrower. I wonder. I like Allen as a talent, but I don't know if that style of player is going to be successful, right? Especially as much as he ran like 70 times last year.
Yeah, he is really athletic. I think people don't realize, and that's the strength of his game. But you mentioned the weakness of his game is accuracy.
52% completion.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing they say you really can't teach. If you're not accurate at the college level, you're not going to all of a sudden turn into an accurate thrower at the pro level. And that's why I didn't necessarily like him as a prospect. I didn't think I thought Buffalo reached for him a little bit, and I think they're in that situation. I think it's not, to be honest, I don't think it's going to work because he's just not accurate enough. In the modern NFL, you got to be up at 65%. And the really accurate players like Drew Brees, they're over 70. I mean, you have to connect at that level to be consistently successful, and I just don't see that happening for him.
Yeah, and then, of course, as we talked about at the top, there's Tom Brady, and I don't know how Brady continues to do it, but I'm not going to be the guy who goes out and says this is the year that he slips.
No, I mean, we've talked about that in the past. It's got to happen.
Does it, or does he just go out, or does he just go out as on top, or still playing at a high level one day? Just says that's it.
Well, or that could be. I mean, a lot of people speculated, and they speculate every time they win the Super Bowl. Is this going to be it? Is he going to walk off on top? And he continues to say he wants to play till he's 45. And we'll see if that happens. I always point to Peyton Manning. He was the MVP of this league and throwing for 50-plus touchdowns and having the best offense in the history of the NFL. And 2 years later, he was completely shot. He was completely physically shot. So when it does happen, it's going to happen quickly. Can he get to 45 before it happens? I don't know. I will say this. This is a different era of football that enables that. If this was the 1970s, he wouldn't be Tom Brady where he is today. I mean, when you could rush the passer and beat him up and do different things and be really physical, he probably couldn't play in a previous era at this age. Certainly not at the level he's playing at. But in this era, people like Tom Brady and Drew Brees, if you're accurate, if you get rid of the football, you can play into your 40s, and they've proven that successfully.
Yep, and the AFC East, as we kind of talked about, is the disparity between the top and the second, third, and fourth is just unbelievable. With Brady at the top, probably Darnold, Rosen, Allen in some form after that, and we'll see what happens in
I
Miami.
would say Ryan's number 2. I mean, right now, he's number 2, sadly.
Oh,
And
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's obviously been the starter in Buffalo. He's been the starter with the Jets. He could be the starter with Miami. It's pretty amazing when you think about his career. But he is a heck of a backup quarterback.
So the NFC East was the other one we looked at today. Now, my starting with this is Carson Wentz would have been the MVP of the league. Now, just think about that statement and how hard it is to win the MVP of the – you don't just have a fly-by-night season and win the NFL MVP. The guy who wins the NFL MVP is typically an established – Hall of Fame, all-time great. So the suggestion that Dak Prescott is even close in this conversation, let's just put this into perspective, that Wentz would have been an MVP. Prescott will never even get a vote.
Yeah, I mean, I said that yesterday on the show, and it was only 2017. There's a lot of people that have really short memories, and that's kind of – you already saw the ceiling for Carson Wentz, and that was arguably the best player in football as the potential MVP before tearing the ACL and the LCL in December. Dak Prescott is not near that when it comes to ceiling as a player, and that's why I've argued the Cowboys seem prepared to pay him in the range of what Carson Wentz got. I don't think they have to. I think if they're smart, they will realize his success is a lot more dependent on the surrounding cast. And it's a good surrounding cast. And by the way, it's not an insult to Dak Prescott. For some reason, people take that as an insult. He's been an above-average quarterback. He's a solid guy. I would say there's no question he's the second-best quarterback in this division, but he's not a top-5 elite quarterback.
Right.
And Carson Wentz was. Now, it's fair to have questions because of the injuries and say, can he get back to that? But you already know Carson Wentz's ceiling as a player, and you know Dak Prescott's ceiling as a player. And they're not the same.
Well, and that's one of the questions I wanted to get into today. How much more can both of those guys? I mean, can they both get significantly better? Have we seen the best of Carson Wentz? Have we seen the best of Dak Prescott?
Well, no, I think certainly they can get better. And from Dak's standpoint, I think as you get more experience, generally comes more consistency, and that'll help him and help his part of the game. I think having Amari Cooper for a full season will make things easier for him. I think having Travis Frederick back, if he's healthy and he's ready to go, that will help him immensely. That's one of the top 5 centers in football, so that only improves the offensive line. There's room to go up, and there's room to go up from Carson Wentz also from a consistency standpoint and a health standpoint, more noticeably. It's going to be tough for him to play better than he played in 2017. But that's sort of, when you look at top 5 quarterbacks, whoever you want to put in that category, whether it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, if you look at Matt Ryan and his MVP season versus, say, last season, there's some up and down to that scale. But the one thing that defines those kinds of quarterbacks is you know you're going to be in it every week. You know they're going to perform at a high level, even in the bad games, and they're going to give their team a chance to win. That's kind of the difference between that really top tier versus just a good quarterback.
John McMullen at JF McMullen. And, we when I ranked them this morning, I think I had, Wentz was far and away, then Dak. And then I guess after that, you got the two Washington guys, if you like, Keenum and Haskins, and then there's Eli. So we talked yesterday about those battles there. But if you're ranking those 4, you got Eli worse than anybody that plays in Washington?
Yeah, I got him worse than Case Keenum. But I look at that as, and we talked about first-round picks with the AFC East. I mean, to me, there's no question at some point this season, both Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins are going to be starting quarterbacks.
The Jones-Eli camp battle is going to be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might not start week one, but he'll definitely be starting by midseason. I think Haskins has a better opportunity to start week one because Daniel Snyder loves him, and he kind of runs the show there and might push it in that direction, although I think Case Keenum would be the better quarterback, certainly in the short term. So I think both of those guys are going to be starting quarterbacks at some point this season, both of the rookies. So if you look at that from that standpoint, who do you like better, Haskins or Daniel Jones? And that's probably, do you like, what flavor do you like?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the Washington camp battle. I'm looking forward to the Giant camp battle, and happy that the days of wondering who your quarterback might be are over. You know, you had the Foles, Vic, the Kevin Cobb years. I mean, it's nice to have your guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have the unquestioned starter. And when you have two, the old cliches, you don't have any. When you have three, like Washington, you really don't have any. You don't want to be in a situation where there's a quarterback controversy. And both of those organizations, to their credit, have started moving in the right direction. They pick their guy. Now it's about ramping up and getting the young quarterback ready, and when you can get that. And that's an important step, especially for the Giants, because they've waited. We've talked about that, you and I, a lot. They've waited way too long to turn the page, and to their credit, they've finally done it.
All right, John McMullen, Football at 4. We will look at the quarterbacks this week. That should be fun going through, which is the league's evolving. There's a lot of changes, Baltimore's got a new quarterback. Cleveland's got a second-year guy. Cincinnati, at the end, it could be the end of the line out there. When you look at what's going on in the NFC North, Minnesota with Cousins, Green Bay, Detroit, they got their two main guys. But Trubisky won that division last year, so we'll take a look at that tomorrow here at Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live.
But real quick, that's a perfect example. The NFC North, you can win without having the best quarterback. That is the worst quarterback in the division. So other players do matter.
Spoiler alert.
You mentioned the Bengals. Unfortunately for them, bad day for them. They lost their first-round pick for the season, Jonah Williams, the left tackle. So that is a devastating blow.
All right, back tomorrow, Football at 4, and you can get it on YouTube every day. Thanks, pal.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, man.